and there I was in Paris. And then I did go from there to Stuttgart. So that was my first time in Germany, but then I started going there regularly to these trade shows for music.
Shows,
yeah.
Music trade shows. What's
Yeah.
a music trade show?
A music trade show, you know, going back to the Beatles again.
Yeah.
When you see the Beatles, everybody started noticing what instruments they were playing, you know?
Well,
like,
yeah.
everybody knows that Paul McCartney had this Hofner bass, they called it the Beatle bass, you know? And then John Lennon was known for this Rickenbacker guitar, and people started really noticing the brands of the instruments that they were playing.
Interesting.
You know?
I never did, but okay.
And then Ringo played Ludwig drums, you know?
Oh, really? Okay.
So
these are all brand names that are known to the people in the business, right?
I mean, even before the Beatles, but especially with the Beatles, the endorsement thing from the manufacturers of the instruments became a big thing because the instruments became part of the whole, you know, persona of the band. And so there's a whole world of endorsers, endorsements, and manufacturers, and every instrument is a different thing.
Does it make a difference, the instrument? I mean, we have in the violin the
It really does.
Stradivarius,
It really
right?
does, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I started out as an accordionist, but I started playing organ 7 nights a week.
That's how you got started on the organ?
Well, no, I started out on accordion.
You did?
But then I went into organ.
How does one get started on the accordion? There happened to be an accordion found in the
Well,
back
you
of a
remember
closet
in the
somewhere
in the
How does
60s
somebody get to an accordion?
Well, in the 60s, Harold,
Yeah.
you know, the after-school thing was your parents would drop you off at. They had these studios.
Yeah.
This was a big thing nationwide.
Uh-huh.
It's not happening anymore. But they had these studios where they taught tap dancing and or accordion. So I said, well, the tap dancing for me, that's out, you know, because I got 2 lead feet, you know.
Oh, really?
But the accordion interested me, you know.
Uh-huh.
And it happened that my accordion teacher had an accordion that was a really good accordion.
Okay.
That we
That's
got
interesting.
secondhand for a good deal.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, it's really good when you get a really quality instrument to begin with. It really makes a difference, you know.
Uh-huh.
So here I had a quality instrument,
Right.
and I got into it right away, you know. And, you know, it wasn't long before I started playing and making a little bit of dough, you know. I started playing for senior citizens luncheons, you know, and I think my first gig, I was 10.
10 years old, yeah.
I made $25
Oh, that was real money in
and
those
free
days.
lunch, you know.
Yeah, and a free lunch.
Yeah, and I said, hey.
Yeah, they tell us there's no free lunch, but there is if you have an accordion attached, right? Right, okay, yeah.
So then I got a bigger accordion around when I was 13 with built-in microphones, and I got my very first Fender amplifier, you know.
Okay, you're talking into the ballpark stuff.
Yeah, I was playing, then I was already playing in bands, you know. And it sounded very much like an organ because my accordion was such a quality instrument that it didn't sound reedy. It sounded more smooth.
Okay.
And I played it like an organ, you know.
Okay.
So, but the image, like I said, the PR problem that the instrument had goes back to Lawrence Welk.
Right.
You know?
All those flouncy skirts.
Yeah, right.
All that sweet.
So, you know, all the cats were saying, you know, why don't you get an electric keyboard? You know, at that time there was the Dave Clark 5, you know.
Yeah.
And the organ player, he was a stand-up organ player. You know, when you play a big organ, you sit down on a bench, right?
You mean like a pipe organ?
Well,
That's
you know,
where you got.
When you play a classical organ
Yeah,
or even a Hammond organ,
Okay,
you have a bench.
Hammond organ.
And you know what happens? These organs get kicked around with the bands,
Right.
and the first thing that breaks is the bench, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I have a saying that I say. This is you can quote me on this, folks. So that is, it's easier to find an organ without a bench than a bench without an organ.
Okay,
People always call
you
me
got
up.
that trademark.
Yeah,
do you?
people
You have
always
that trademark.
yeah.
Okay.
People always call me up and say, "Hey, Hammond, do you know where I can get an organ bench?" You know. So I actually play standing up. You know.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay,
I do.
yeah,
And I put my foot on the pedal, and I got the idea from Dave Clark 5. You know.
From Dave Clark 5.
Dave
they had
Clark
a
5.
dance thing in the afternoon.
They came in from England with the English invasion, you know, and they were a tremendous band. And then the Animals had the organ. Well, you know, so in those days, a lot of people used Hammond organs or vox, or farfisa.
The Animals did a thing. We got to get out of this place. It became very popular.
Right.
A particular tune. Was that a good tune?
And the biggest hit was, of course, also covered by Joan Baez in 1957. It was her first single, and this was a smash hit for the Animals, and that was The House of the Rising Sun.
The House of the Rising, yeah.
With Eric Burdon, was the lead singer.
Jerry Lee Lewis used to do some things too. That was on a piano. He didn't do a chorus. He was playing piano. Is there a sister relationship between, you got keys like on a thing, between an organ, between an accordion and a piano?
Absolutely. I always say the accordion and the organ
a keyboard instrument.
They're first cousins.
Okay, yeah.
But so anyway, what happened, I got pressured into it. For the image thing, I had to get an electric keyboard. So my very first electric keyboard was a Wurlitzer electric piano.
Is that good? I don't know.
Actually, they're coming back now. And they pay a fortune for these things,
Like an antique.
But maintenance-wise, things weren't digital then, of course, so you had to learn how to fix these things because the reeds inside would break and they would go out of tune also, So to tune it, believe it or not, you had to take solder. And melt solder onto the reeds, right?
Really?
And then file them off until you get it in tune,
the
right?
Right tune?
Yeah. And if you played it at an outdoor gig in the sun, it would make the thing go completely out of tune.
I'll be darned. It was that
so I was down there
fragile, right?
I had stuff all over my hands all the time from working on my keyboard. And then eventually I got my very first Hammond organ when I was 18 years old. I got my very first one. I bought it from Boz Scaggs.
Oh, really?
And it was a full-blown touring organ with 2 Leslie speakers, road cases. I got flight cases in the case I ever got a gig with the Rolling Stones or something. But I had a rock band that was pretty successful in the Bay Area, and we were being looked at by Warner Brother Records.
Well, wait a minute. Now, where were you? You were out of Chicago. I hear Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
I know you were in New York.
I skipped one thing.
You were in New York for
We came to the Bay Area.
And you were doing public access. And you had that thing where your foot was tapping in the booth.
That's skipping a bunch of years. But I skipped one important part was that we moved from Chicago to the Bay Area to Berkeley, California in 1957. My father drove the Rambler.
Okay, Rambler.
And I came.
Nash Rambler.
I came across with my mother and a couple of my sisters on the California Zephyr.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah.
So that was 1957.
57.
And I was out in Berkeley for all the radical '60s. That was a fantastic time to be in the Bay Area.
You were there. I don't mean to pry. How old would you have been in '57? Do you have
4 years old.
4. Yeah. You were just 4, so you were young, and so you were there for the Summer of Love. 10 years after that.
I was there for.
The whole ball of wax.
I was there for the brief moment of peace, love, and all that stuff.
It was a wonderful time, if you ask me.
The spirit was fantastic. We try to keep the spirit alive. The spirit moves around.
Yeah.
Like you say, the global village,
Yeah, right.
And that part of the village seems to move around,
So you got a base out there, but it was Chicago, Berkeley.
Berkeley.
When did you get to New York? Because I think
I came here,
New York.
And
you still got it.
I moved east to go to Berklee College of Music, which is spelled Berklee. So I went actually from Berkeley, Berkeley, from that Berkeley to the other Berkeley, which was Berklee College of Music in Boston.
You can make a song out of that.
But they spell it differently. So I went to Boston to go to music school in 1973, and I enrolled in the school in, my major was arranging and composition.
At Berkeley?
Yeah.
That's in Boston, isn't it not?
In Boston, right.
You could make a song like they had one, Harriman.
And then
or something like that.
Yeah.
And you were into jazz.
Well, it was
you were into hip music.
Well, that was a coincidence.
I
mean, I had already been in bands. I was in a band that was looking at a recording contract, and I just split. I had my hair down to my back, and I cut all my hair off, and I went to music school, because I just decided I was just disillusioned with it. I wanted to go to music school. I wanted to become a legit musician.
A legit. Now, wait, help me on this and everything, because you got pop music and you got people, and then you've got classical music. And do the twain meet? What's the situation?
Well,